Welcome back, fam, to another week of Ecclesiastes Bible study. We are in week 10, only 2 more weeks left. I hope you guys have been enjoying the study so far, and I've been enjoying doing these studies so far myself, taking all these notes and learning so much. So let's get started. I've got my Bible, the New Revised Standard Version Updated Edition. I've also got the Amplified right here with me, and I've also taken notes myself. And maybe a few notes from my study Bible, it looks like. All right. So let's go ahead and pray before we get started. Lord, I hope everyone here that is listening and watching has had a beautiful week. I want you to protect them because we know that the enemy is real and we know the enemy is watching us right now, and we know the enemy has a target on our back and he wants to do everything that he can to derail us from you, and we're not going to let that happen. You're not going to let that happen. Keep us safe, protect us, and let's learn. In Jesus' marvelous, beautiful name, amen. All right, without further ado, Ecclesiastes 10. So, as usual, I'm going to read there's 20 verses, I believe, today, so I'm going to read them real quick, and then we'll break them down verse by verse. Dead flies make the perfumer's ointment give off a foul odor, so a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. The heart of the wise inclines to the right, but the heart of a fool to the left. Even when fools walk on the road, they lack sense, and show to everyone that they are fools. If the anger of the ruler rises against you, do not leave your post, for calmness will undo great offenses. There is an evil that I have seen under the sun, as great is an error as if it has proceeded from the ruler. Folly is set in many high places, and the rich sit in a low place. I have seen slaves on horseback and princes walking on the ground like slaves. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it, and whoever breaks through a wall will be bitten by a snake. Whoever quarries stones will be hurt by them, and whoever splits logs will be endangered by them. If the iron is blunt, and one does not wet the ledge, then the more strength must be exerted, but wisdom helps one to succeed. If the snake bites before it's charmed, there is no advantage in a charmer. Words spoken by the wise bring them favor, but the lips of fools consume them. The words of their mouths begin in foolishness, and their talk ends in wicked madness, yet fools talk on and on. No one knows what is to happen, and who can tell anyone what the future holds? The toil of fools wears them out, for they do not even know the way to town. Alas for you, O land, when your king is a child and your princes feast in the morning. Happy are you, O land, when your king is a nobleman, and your princes feast at the proper time, for strength and not for drunkenness. Through sloth the roof sinks in, and through indolence the house leaks. Feasts are made for laughter, wine gladdens life, and money meets every need. Do not curse the king even in your thoughts, or curse the rich even in your bedroom. For a bird of the air may carry your voice, or some winged creature tell the matter. There's a lot of meat in this chapter here. So let's go ahead and break this down. For verse 1, I'll go ahead and read that real quick again, just so we have a fresh memory. We've got dead flies make the perfumer's ointment give off a foul odor, so a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. Gotta be honest, when I first read that, I was like a deer in headlights. I had no idea what that was, but through studying, I learned that this is an illustration using imagery of dead flies spoiling perfume's odor, meaning that small acts of foolishness can damage a person's reputation. Much like a fly, multiple flies could come in and make something precious like perfume that smells great, they can come in and make it smell awful. So even if you are a wise person, if you make one wrong move that is completely foolish, left for all to see, it could be as damaging as multiple flies to perfume. And that is why decision making is so important, especially for the wise. We should know better. We're still humans with sinful natures, but we were given wisdom for a reason. So at best, we need to utilize it whenever we can. And it may seem silly and small, but literally one small misstep and it could follow you around for a lifetime. There's several examples of this in culture today. Don't need to put anybody on blast. Ain't got time for that. Verse 2. The heart of the wise inclines to the right, but the heart of a fool to the left. Okay, so broken down, my study Bible says that the regards of the right hand is symbolizing strength and competence, which is wisdom. And further explaining, I did some more research and they determined that The left hand symbolizes foolishness, a lack of sense, and moral weakness. And it goes on to further define the right hand as honor, skill, and wisdom. So it's better to lean on the right than the left. Right obviously would symbolize wisdom, and left foolish. So we all know our choices here, and we know which the better option is. And I like how the Amplified Bible breaks this down. A wise man's heart turns him toward the right, which is the way of blessing, but a fool's heart turns him toward the left, which is the way of condemnation. No need for further explanation there. Verse 3. Even when fools walk on the road, they lack sense and show to everyone that they are fools. And the Amplified Bible breaks this down like this. Even when a fool walks along the road, his common sense and a good judgment fail him, and he demonstrates to everyone that he is a fool. So, dumbing it down, if you act a fool, it's going to be out there for everyone to see. And people's foolishness is louder than, it can be louder than one's wisdom. That's why it's so important to stand guard. It's also important to know that foolishness cannot be hidden. If you go out there and act a fool, people are gonna notice. That's just how it is. Verse 4. If the anger of the ruler rises against you, do not leave your post, for calmness will undo great offenses. And in the Amplified Bible for verse 4, it says, if the temper of the ruler rises against you, do not leave your post, showing resistance, because composure and calmness prevent great offenses. Just stay calm. When things seem tense, especially when there's higher authority involved, just stay put. Just be brave, stay calm, and eventually the situation will rectify itself. And God will be with you if there's anything further that needs to come about. And let me just give you an example. Let's say that there was some missing money at your place of employment, and there's, you and 10 of your coworkers, and the boss has got you lined up and giving you guys a speech like, we're not leaving until somebody confesses. And so let's say that it's you, the one who did nothing wrong. You just got to stay calm. Just stand your post. If you are rigid or weary or nervous or act out of character in any sort of way, that could put you on notice as someone who might be guilty, might be found guilty by your employer. So just stay calm, even though situations like that can be intense. And not all situations are going to be like that. That's just one example that came to my head. But just stay calm and everything will be okay. Verses 5 to 7 go together, so I'll read those together and then we'll break those down. There is an evil that I have seen under the sun, as great as an error as if it proceeded from the ruler. Folly is set in many high places, and the rich sit in a low place. I have seen slaves on horseback, and princes walking on grounds like slaves. Well, backwards, isn't that? Much like God's kingdom. Little God humor. Alright, so my study Bible says for this, basically that it labels this as an upside down social world. And it describes situations where incompetent rulers make mistakes or poor judgment leads them to bad decision making, which leads to chaos and hence the upside down world that we live in. And I found further that during this study that a corrupt and unjust system where a ruler elevates fools to high positions while the wise and deserving are neglected and or demoted. That is so the world that we're living in. You couldn't paint the picture any clearer if you tried. Alright, let us move on to verse 8. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it, and whoever breaks through a wall will be bitten by a snake. Ooh, my goodness. So I found this one interesting. It says, reckless actions, breaking rules and boundaries lead to unexpected and harmful consequences for the wrongdoer. That's a reason not to do wrong. The backfire is real. Falling into your own trap is a great consequence to teach the wrongdoer the error of their ways. Choose the good path. I mean, it should be as simple as it sounds, but there are some hard-headed fools in the world, and if you set somebody else up to fail, chances are that's gonna bite you in your own behind. And even if it doesn't, that particular act does not bite you, then it will come back to you at some point. So just choose the right. No matter how enticing the wrong decision seems, always just choose the better path. It's going to work out better for you in the long run. Verse 9. Whoever quarries stones will be hurt by them, and whoever splits logs will be endangered by them. So basically, wisdom is essential in daily tasks and labor. So this applies to literally your work or your daily tasks, just living life, you need wisdom. So it says, this verse is an illustration basically for hard labor, saying that you can get harmed by hazardous tasks. And it signifies that danger is universal and can happen to anybody, not just the wicked. So taking precautions is the best course of action to prevent harm. And I found this lovely because one of my favorite proverbs can be used for this particular verse, which is Proverbs 22:3. A prudent person foresees dangers and takes precaution, but the simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. Well, if you don't take precaution and if you just fly blind, chances are it's not going to work out too well for you. Moving on to verse 10. If the iron is blunt and one does not whet the edge, then the more strength must be exerted, but the wisdom helps one to succeed. For this verse, the Amplified Bible breaks it down like, if the axe is dull and he does not sharpen its edge, then he must exert more strength. But wisdom to sharpen the axe helps him succeed with less effort. Have you ever heard the expression, work smarter, not harder? This is the perfect verse for that. So lack of wisdom and preparation makes tasks harder. Wisdom makes them simpler and more successful. If an axe is dull, it takes more force to cut through things than if the blade is sharpened. The work is easier and more effective. And this goes back to the saying that we've been talking about all along. Wisdom is not only better than strength, but wisdom is the queen of the universe. Right now, I prepared a few examples to share if you need further explanation. We all have 4 pillars to life: mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical. So I'm going to give a brief example for all of them so you can have a better understanding. So for mental, I put, let's say that you have a big test coming up, right? What's not going to help you? Well, not getting sleep, cramming, drinking alcohol, drinking a bunch of coffee, going out the night before your test. What's going to help you? Long study sessions, prayer, a night in, maybe reading a book, even meditation, stuff like that. So those are ways that you can prepare for a test mentally, and those are wise ways. Let's talk physical. Let's talk about going to the gym early in the morning, which is what I like to do. If I'm gonna do that, I'm not gonna stay up all night. No, I wanna get a good night's rest and do a nice stretch sesh probably when I wake up and before I go to sleep, so my muscles could be ready. And then in the morning I could drink a little bit of coffee and listen to my spiritual podcasts and music to get me revved up, to get me going, to give me good energy. Let's talk emotional. So I gave this one the example of a relationship. Let's say that you have like 2 best friends who have been friends for years, but there seems to be a little bit of tension. Maybe a little bit of space would be wise. Then, you know, you've talked. This problem seems to have arisen maybe within the last month or so, and all you've done is try to talk it out, but you guys just can't seem to work it out at all. So the wise thing to do here would be to take some space between you to try and just like calm and let things settle, and then come back and try to work it out, instead of just trying to pursue it, because that's just going to drain both of you emotionally, and you're not going to be able to live and get done the things that you need to get done. And then for spiritual, I said the wise thing to do would be to pray and to be in the Word of God and to listen to worship music and to stay faithful and obey the Lord. And obviously, I shouldn't have to say this, but the unwise thing to do here would be to abandon all of that and not do any of that. If you don't feed your spirit, then your spirit can't grow. It's just like anything else. Whatever you feed grows. Whatever you starve dies. Verse 11. If the snake bites before it's charmed, there's no advantage in a charmer. Well, skills are useless without preparation, and you can't use them if there's nowhere to put them. That's pretty self-explanatory. Verse 12. Words spoken by the wise bring them favor, but the lips of fools consume them. And that's also nothing that we haven't discussed before. Wisdom provides a positive impact, whereas foolishness provides destruction. Making our way, verses 13 and 14 go together, so I'll read them. The words of their mouths begin in foolishness, and their talk ends in wicked madness. Yet fools talk on and on. No one knows what is to happen, and who can tell anyone what the future holds. Fools talk incessantly, thinking that they are right, when they don't even have the right answers. They have no clue. Wise people know when to shut up, fools do not. Fools' speech start with simple foolishness, then escalates to madness and destruction. Kind of like an example I've used before in previous studies about a small spark in the woods could turn into a huge forest fire without much effort. Well, the same thing applies here. Verse 15. The toil of fools wears them out, for they do not even know the way to town. And for the Amplified Bible, it says, the labor of a fool so wearies him because he is ignorant that he does not even know how to go to a city. That sounds like an insult to me. Foolish people exhaust themselves through misguided work, and the city here is referenced in this verse, symbolizing a purpose, that they can't get through their way in life without proper guidance. Foolish people have no direction. That's pretty much the simplest way that you can put it. I mean, the wise are God's people, and they live to serve Him, and they want His will. Fools seek their own way, and as we know, we are nothing without God, so we can't do anything without Him. Verse 16. Alas for you, O land, when your king is a child and your princes feast in the morning. Alright, so this is talking about incompetent or immature leaders, unable or unwilling to attend to their responsibilities because of their foolishness. Well, we don't see any of that in our culture today, do we? They put pleasure over responsibility. That is just... I have no words for that. That's not what we should be doing. Certainly no rulers, but it happens. Verse 17, happy are you, O land, when your king is a nobleman, and your princes feast at the proper time for strength and not for drunkenness. So, good leadership brings prosperity to a land. And I saw when I was doing this study that, in verse 16 it said, princes feast in the morning, and then for verse 17 it says princes feast at the proper time. So I read when I was doing this study that in the culture at the time of this, feasting was not to be done in the morning. That time was meant to get any work done and to take care of your responsibilities, and then feasting came later at the proper time. So those two are contrasting. Verse 18, through sloth the roof sinks in, and through indolence the house leaks. And for verse 18 in the Amplified Bible it says, through laziness the rafters of state affairs decay and the roof sags, and through idleness the roof of the house leaks. Well, if you don't take care of your things, then they're not gonna be your things anymore. They're gonna decay and rotten. What do you expect? Sloth and laziness lead to ruin. Shocking. If you don't take care of things in your life, they will eventually decay. Verse 19. Feasts are made for laughter, wine gladdens life, and money meets every need. Be careful with that verse, because it says money meets every need, but you gotta read it, the context and understand what that means. And in Amplified it says, the officials make a feast for enjoyment instead of repairing what is broken, and serve wine to make life merry, and money is the answer to everything. It's not, but hold on. Food, wine, and money are meant for enjoyment, and they do meet needs. Money is a tool for earthly pleasures and practical problems in life. So while money is a necessity and money has the power that it has, it should never be our main focus in life. So money used in the proper way and for the proper things, bring it on. But money misused, which is what a lot of people in today's culture, even before that, even in Bible times, that's why Jesus talks about money so much in the Bible. You got to be careful with money, because money is dangerous, and it will meet your needs in the way that God has intended if money takes its rightful position behind God, not in front of God. Verse 20. Do not curse the king even in your thoughts, or curse the rich even in your bedroom. For a bird of the air may carry your voice, or some winged creature tell the matter. We don't like to gossip, do we? That's not our favorite thing, is it? Don't speak ill will against rulers or the wealthy. Words can be heard and spread wide. So we shouldn't speak our minds rashly. You are responsible for what comes out of your mouth. Private criticisms can become public knowledge, and you have to be mindful in regard of your thoughts and your speech. That's why God gave us wisdom to help discern what should come out of our mouths or not. Not every thought that we have is a good thought, and therefore we've been given the wisdom and the discernment to keep things to ourselves that don't need to be filtered through the air. The wisest thing to do is just throw out the negative thoughts before they pass your lips, obviously. Then you'll be able to maintain your wise identity and your integrity will remain intact. This is powerful, you guys. This was a really, really good study. A lot of meat and potatoes in this one. Thank you guys for doing this study with me. I had such a great time. We have 2 more in this book, and then this book is finished. We will be back next week for Ecclesiastes 11. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time.